The Dodgers may have found a new way to deal with their prospect glut. Kiké Hernández likely not coming back to the Dodgers. Where could he end up? And the Dodgers pitching factory. How does it work? How do they figure it out? How do they make everybody better? That's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, and you can make that easy task by subscribing wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com and use code LOCKED ON to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. I'm usually joined by co-host Jeff Snider, but it's just me today. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team for a while now in various capacities. This podcast being one of them. We've been in the press box, we've been in the locker room, we've been at Camelback, we've been Dodger Stadium, we've been all over. We're not quite insiders. We're just here to bring you some our thoughts about the Dodgers, which are hopefully smart and rational and make you a more knowledgeable Dodger fan. And as always, here to do that again today. There was no transactional news really over the weekend in terms of the Dodgers getting any new players. They did settle. Nobody's going to arbitration. If you are very interested in it, I can run through it real quick. Will Smith settled at 8.55 million. Walker Buehler 8.025. Evan Phillips 4 million. Ryan Yarbrough 3.9. Bruce Dark Gradwell 2.7. Caleb Ferguson 2.4. Dustin May 2.135. Gavin Lux 1.25. Alex Vesia 1 million. And JP Fireeisen 700,000. So nothing too crazy for the Dodgers in terms of any added or any big numbers. In terms of baseball, Juan Soto did set the arbitration record. He got 31 mil from the Yankees, beating out the 30 mil that Ohtani got in his last year with the Angels. So there is big money to be had out there. Dodgers' highest was 8 mil, so nothing too intense. The other little bit of news in the Dodger world, Raul Ibanez has reportedly been hired as Vice President of Baseball Development and Special Projects. Not entirely sure what all that'll mean. Obviously, baseball development, we know what that means. Special projects, not sure if it'll be related to, baseball development, but just maybe, other countries or other programs or other whatever. We'll see as time goes on. Ibanez had been working with the league the last few years, and he had worked with the Dodgers before that. So he never played with the Dodgers in his career, but now has been part of the Dodgers organization in two different capacities. So again, I don't know if that means we'll see more of Raul Ibanez, if we'll hear him talk more, if he'll, have a hand in certain things. But it's news, so how to touch on it. Other than that, that was the only bit of real news we had. However, we will talk about something that the Dodgers could be thinking of to do more in the future, or could be a way they, the Dodgers kind of have the farm system overall is still good right now, but there are a lot of players that are or will be close to the majors in the next year. A lot of prospects that are in, the older range, 25, 26, going on 26, 27, coming in the future years. One of those players was Michael Busch, who they did trade last week. And, Jeff broke it down and kind of what the Dodgers got prospect-wise with Lindsey Crosby last week. But there was a nugget in a Ken Rosenthal article over the weekend saying, before trading infielder Michael Busch to the Cubs, the Dodgers included him in some of their offers to the White Sox for Dylan Cease. Rosenthal added that the Dodgers' interest in Cease was stronger before they signed Yamamoto, and that they still talked to the White Sox after. But he says that the trade with the Cubs indicated they were looking for future value. And then he added the Dodgers discussed flipping Cease to another club, the Orioles being one possibility, and acquiring prospects that way. So that got me thinking, like, are the Dodgers trying to find, the joke in the baseball world is, finding the new marketing efficiency, how you can, outsmart the baseball world, or at least get ahead of the baseball world. And could this be the Dodgers' way of finding that marketing efficiency? I think obviously, this was probably a thought of a plan. I really can't see the Dodgers legitimately acquiring Dylan Cease and then trading him. Like, we saw them do that before in the past, when they got Andrew Heaney back in the day, and then they traded him right away. But Andrew Heaney was not at the level that Dylan Cease was at that point. He just, was more potential at that point. So, but it got me thinking, like I said, with the kind of glut they have right now of talent that's either getting older and, maybe should be in the majors, but just the Dodgers are built a little differently these days. They're always built to win. But as we've talked about, going out and spending the money they did this offseason, it's a little bit different in the sense of built to win. They can go with more or be looking into more established talent rather than looking into, developing talent as they go along. Now they're still going to do that. And they're still going to have times when that's needed because of injuries or whatever else. But, I don't think they're just going to, last year they gave the keys to Miguel Vargas and it didn't work out for them. And, they had to make the change at around the middle of the season, where this year, like, they're not necessarily handing anything to anybody really, other than, Bobby Miller is seemingly assured a spot in the rotation. And then Emmett Sheehan could potentially have a spot in the rotation. But other than that, there's not really any rookies that are or young players that are expected to take on a huge role with the Dodgers. A lot more established talent. You got Outman, I guess, counts toward that. But again, it's he already did it for a full season, so it's not as much of a risk. Still risk, but not as much of a risk as somebody that hadn't played or hadn't performed in the big leagues yet. So with Vargas and Landon Knack and Frosso and all these guys that were that vaunted AA rotation from last year, could the Dodgers attack the market this way, where you're not necessarily, you're going to lose a little bit in the prospect, rankings, I guess, in terms of, like, Michael Busch was a top 100 prospect. The guys that they got from the Cubs are currently not top 100 prospects, but they're younger. They're, more flyer types. And we hear flyer types a lot in baseball. But, as we've seen and as we've kind of grown to know Andrew Friedman and the Dodgers front office, I would trust the flyers that they take chances on a lot more than flyers that other teams take chances on. So I think that this is a way for them to kind of do that, where, if they do say, like, hey, you know what, Miguel Vargas, there's not a spot for you. We have we have whatever they're locked up. If we can find somebody to give us a couple prospects that are, maybe lower tier, younger, and, we can continue to develop. It's one of those where, like, if the Dodgers have all the main positions locked in for a few years, which they kind of do, if they have the rotation locked in for a few years, which they kind of do, they can just continue the player development machine and just kind of, keep building, and then, fit it in when they need to. So, you know what, Miguel Vargas, Michael Busch, we appreciate you. You're not quite needed right now. Okay, boom, we trade you. Now we got four more guys in the pipeline, and now we develop them. And when it's their time to come up and okay, or add to the 40 man, or are you ready to join the majors? Okay, do we need you? No. Okay, maybe trade you out. Is this the new way the Dodgers are going to operate? I don't think so, but I do think it's a way they can operate. They trade for people that aren't highly touted, and then they turn them into top 100 prospects. And then who knows after what they do after that? It's very possible that they can keep turning them into future top 100 prospects. They traded Matt Beatty, got River Ryan. River Ryan is now, a legitimate prospect, and they could, continue to do that with talent, or, getting rid. If the guy they got for the Yankees ends up being the top 100 prospect that they traded in this offseason for Joe Vivas, if he becomes the top 100 prospect, now you're back in the mix again, and you're staying strong with your farm system, and you're also, can use it to supplement your major league team in terms of them actual playing, supplement your major league team in terms of trading for somebody, to improve the team at the moment, or you supplement the team by trading and getting new guys to, continue the cycle. So I think it's an interesting note or note and thought for the Dodgers, and something that they could definitely do, and keep it going. So that's the thoughts I had there. We're going to talk about Kiké Hernández. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about him. Is there room for him on this roster? Can they make room for him on this roster? We'll get into that and see where he has been rumored to so far. So that's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Notice I didn't say win a $5 bet. I said place a $5 bet. 2 NFL games today. You got the Steelers and the Bills. You got the Bucks and the Eagles. It doesn't matter who you think is going to win, because all you have to do is place a $5 bet in order to get the 150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And what can you do with that 150 once you get it? Well, there's a lot of things to do on the FanDuel app. They have a new Explore tab where you can find all the hottest bets and bets going on and jump in on the action with them. There's another way to get in on the action with other people is the Parlay Hub, where you can find the most popular parlays and see what people are betting on, and decide, oh, I want to take that risk. Or you can make your own parlays with the same game parlays or the multiple game parlays. There's a lot of different ways to get in on the action with the FanDuel app, and you can get it by visiting FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet today. Go get that $150. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us where we found podcasts and on YouTube, and become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. We greatly appreciate it. Remember, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Locked On Podcast Network has two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube, that might be of interest to you. Locked On Sports Today has all the news and stories from around the sports world, and Locked On Sports Los Angeles has the same thing, but for LA sports specifically. Tough loss for the Rams last night, but our buddy Doug McCain will have it all covered and get into it. And then you can find us on there and all the other LA teams. So go check those out on YouTube and subscribe. All right, let's talk about Kiké Hernández. We've had a couple calls for questions the last couple weeks, and this has been a name that we've seen a lot and we've heard a lot. And obviously, popular player, came back last season, remained popular, and really was a clutch player for the Dodgers down the stretch. Was one of the few guys with some hits in the postseason, and it's a valid question to see how he could fit with this Dodgers team. And we talked about the Dodgers position player group last week, and the Dodgers could not do anything else on the position player side, and they have the 13 players that they would ride into in the regular season right now. Is that the 13 players they're going to go into it with? That remains to be seen, obviously. What does that mean for Kiké Hernández? Well, what it means is the Dodgers would kind of have to make a move in order to bring him back and accommodate him on the roster. They do have an open 40-man roster spot right now, so it wouldn't necessarily be a 40-man roster move, but it probably would be that, because everybody that we've talked about that would be on the team is somebody that is a major league player. You look, obviously Kiké probably wouldn't be a starter on this team as it currently stands. He could be a platoon, which basically Manuel Margot is where you would fit in Kiké Hernández. You would have to get rid of Margot in order to bring Kiké back, because you have Hayward and Outman and Teoscar in the outfield. Then you have Otani obviously at DH. You have Freddie and Mookie and Lux and Muncy and Will Smith. And then we talked about coming off the bench. You have Miguel Rojas. You have Austin Barnes. Right now you have Manuel Margot, and then you have Chris Taylor. So I guess Chris Taylor would be the other one that you can get rid of or try to get rid of in order to accommodate Kiké. I don't see them, I can still see them trying to move Margot or find a place for Margot in order to bring back Kiké, just for the fact of the versatility. Now, it's not as needed as before, but with Margot, he's locked in the outfield. He's only going to play outfield. Teoscar Hernandez locked in the outfield. Jason Hayward locked in the outfield. James Outman locked in the outfield. So that's, 4 guys that are for sure outfielders. Miguel Rojas can play around the infield. We know that. Chris Taylor can play around the infield. We know that. But, beyond that, the Dodgers could value more versatility in terms of having, basically it would be like, if Margot, you consider Margot and Kiké similar, which obviously we like Kiké more. Like, I don't think you'll find any Dodger fan. Well, you might find some, but you're not going to find a lot of Dodger fans that wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, let's bring Kiké back and kick Margot to the curb," realistically. And Kiké could fill in around now. Where it could make sense again is that we don't know exactly what we're going to get from Lux at shortstop. And it's one of those, in terms of defense, or like, having that burst, having that mobility at shortstop coming off, not just ACL surgery, but, a bunch of tears in his knee and that recovery and everything else. The Dodgers have already gone through a season where Miguel Rojas was their primary shortstop. So, if Lux right now doesn't have the mobility, needs a couple of days off a week or whatever the case is, I think the Dodgers would be fine with Taylor or Rojas holding down shortstop a couple days a week. But if you just wanted another option, Kiké would be that option. Again, I don't know. It doesn't appear that that's what the Dodgers are looking for. We haven't heard them linked at all. Over the weekend, we did hear Kiké linked. It was to the Los Angeles Angels, aka the Anaheim Angels, which again he could fit in wherever he wants. It's one of those where, I don't know what Kiké is looking for right now in terms of, is he trying to play more? He already tried that with the Red Sox, going to another team to get more playing time or be guaranteed a starting spot. It worked out for a season and then it, flamed out a little bit. But obviously, even if he's just looking to be a backup fill-in again, the role that he's had with the Dodgers essentially his entire career, it doesn't look like that will happen right now without a move being made. And I don't know if the Dodgers are looking to make that move. Do they legitimately trust Margot? Do they feel like they have something they can fix with him or whatever? I don't know. Chris Taylor is one of those where, he's a 15 million a year guy right now in terms of the CBT. Can the Dodgers move him if they wanted to? Would they have to eat some salary? Are they interested in that? It doesn't appear likely. It doesn't appear likely. Not that it's not going to happen. Not that it won't happen. It can't happen. It just doesn't appear likely. And as much as I love Kiké, as much as we all love Kiké, it just doesn't look like he's going to come back to the Dodgers. And obviously, we wish him the best wherever he goes if he ends up going somewhere else. But if the Dodgers do, if we do hear an inkling that they're looking to trade Manuel Margot, then we know where that roster spot might be going. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. I can't say for sure that's not a smart move or not. That's just the way the world works. That's the way the business works. That's the way baseball works. Sometimes you're not always going to get your favorite players or the fan favorite players. Sometimes they come back like DK did, and and then sometimes they move on again. So I think that's where we're at with that. I don't think, like I said, and in general, position player wise, Manuel Margot and Chris Taylor would be the likely two players to be moved in order to accommodate somebody else. Or I guess, if they do want an upgrade at shortstop, then you could move Lux in a trade or a deal, or or you move somebody else. But it appears that the Dodgers are set right now. They report in less than a month to Camelback Ranch, and it would appear the position players are set. Any moves that we're kind of thinking or expecting are on the pitching side, and they're still Blake Snell still not signed. Jordan Montgomery still not signed. Josh Hader still not signed. There's still a lot of talent out there that either has not signed or could sign and open up, trade avenues. There's still, the Dodgers, while they do have one 40-man roster spot, and once they kind of get to spring training, they can open up more with any 60-day IL guys like, Dustin May. It's interesting to see how these last, 3-4 weeks before they head to Camelback Ranch will play out, and if we'll see anybody different once they do start reporting there. So that's it on that front. The last thing we're talking about is Dodgers pitching factor. There was an article in the LA Times basically about how Dodgers are helping pitchers and how they figure out ways to make players better. So we're going to talk about that. That's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. It is one of the worst flu seasons we've had in a long time, and it's kind of concerning sometimes where, according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics, and it's not necessarily the most ideal situation. And we talk to you a lot about sports and the way sports is usually an escape from the realities of life, but this is a legitimate concern, and it's hard to not feel helpless in that range. But it's easy to breathe a sigh of relief and help yourself out, and that's because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including respiratory infections, UTIs, sinusitis, skin infections, and more. All stuff that could happen to any of us. You go to jacemedical.com, you meet with a physician online, it'll be reviewed and by a board certified physician, and then your medications will be given to you, sent to you by or picked up at a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's called the Jace case. It can help you out. It's something that you should want at least to have in your emergency kit. So it's never been more important to be prepared today. So go to jacemedical.com and use the offer code locked on, and you'll get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com, promo code locked on, and get $20 off your order. All right. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Reminder that you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider. All you got to do is go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers, and you can text with us and have our first initial thoughts when things happen. You can influence episodes. Last week, last week we had an episode with purely questions from the Locked On insiders. You can ask us questions, you can get answers, and you can get any exclusive info or things that we get in our world of kind of being the Dodger podcasters or covering the Dodgers. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to join today. And let's finish up the episode talking about Dodgers and pitchers and how they make pitchers better. There was an article in the LA Times from Mike DiGiovanna, basically, just talking about how the Dodgers have become known as this pitchers haven, pitchers turnaround, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of the quotes in here are from players that have been helped out by the Dodgers, by players that or by people in the Dodgers organization, or players that have been with the Dodgers for a long time, kind of talking through it. And some of the examples are Evan Phillips, Alex Wood, Ryan Brazier, and Tyler Anderson, Andrew Heaney. But it does point out Noah Syndergaard, who didn't quite work out and didn't necessarily benefit too much from the Dodgers pitching factory. And it all kind of came down to what we've heard before, communication, information, turning that information into usable operations, into using that information to properly convey to somebody what they want to do. And it's one of those things. Alex Wood, one of the examples in the story, was that when the Dodgers acquired him and they told him basically, look, you're one of the best pitchers at getting to 0-2, 1-2 counts. He was in the 99th percentile of that, but he was in the bottom third of the league in terms of putting guys away. And Alex Wood mentioned that at that time he was still had that younger mentality of once you get 0-2, 1-2, you waste a couple pitches, try to get the guy to chase, and then then go to work from there. The Dodgers challenged him and told him to use his secondary pitches to attack hitters. And Alex Wood had a pretty solid few years with the Dodgers, and his strikeout rate was higher than it had been in his time before when he was with the Dodgers. Obviously remember 2017. 16-3, 2.72 ERA, was one of the only team guys to shut down the Astros completely in the postseason. And yeah, for Wood, the Dodgers changed him, and he ended up leaving. He ended up coming back again and then leaving. And he hasn't necessarily had the same success at other places, but he's been able to parlay everything into having a successful major league career. You have Evan Phillips, who came over, was designated first time by the Orioles, was then picked up by the Rays, and they said first time by the Rays, had a 7.36 ERA in 44 games, and now the last two seasons with the Dodgers, he has a 1.74 ERA in 133 games. So obviously, there's proof in the pudding there. With Evan Phillips, it was as simple as changing the grip on his slider, and then adding a sinker to his repertoire and a cut fastball, and that's what he did. And now he's the Dodgers closer at the moment, and was the Dodgers closer last year, and has been their best reliever the last 2 years. And it's one of those where he mentioned, like, some players may fight information or suggestions that teams make. Evan Phillips kind of said, I wasn't in the position to kind of fight anything, and And it was, he's like, if the Los Angeles Dodgers want you and they tell you something that they think can make you better, then, you're going to try it. For a guy like Tyler Anderson who came here, the switch was from a 2-seam grip to a 4-seam grip on his changeup. And then Tyler Anderson went 15-5 with a 2.57 ERA, turned that into a $39 million deal with Anaheim. And then he was not good last year with Anaheim. And, is that a matter of the Dodgers specifically? You would think that okay, the Dodgers helped you with something, you're going to keep doing that, and then, boom, you're fixed. Apparently, they didn't really go that way, but either way, the Dodgers got what they needed out of it. Andrew Heaney parlayed his into, a deal with the Rangers. Ryan Brazier's probably going to turn, his turnaround last year with the Dodgers into a deal, maybe not with the Dodgers, but with somebody else. And, Andrew Friedman kind of talked about it. He said, it boils down to putting guys in our best position to succeed. I think our scouts, analysts, and pitching coaches work really well to identify the levers we want to pull to increase the likelihood of success. He says, I think the secret sauce for us is how well our groups work together. And I think that, that's part of it. The Dodgers don't have any special, technology that no other team has. They have pretty much the same technology any team can have, but it's the way you use that information. It's the way you convey that information to the player. It's, the way you work on it and figure it out. And then, now you kind of have this trust built up in the baseball world. So, players want to come here, pitchers want to come here, and they want to learn and, see if you can help them out in their career or see if you can revive their career. And, it's beneficial for the Dodgers. And yes, sometimes it's turned into, them getting guys for a year and then losing them right after because they sign bigger deals. But, that's fine as long as the Dodgers get what they need in that year that they have somebody, or years that they have somebody. I'm sure they don't mind if they end up leaving and for greener pastures in terms of the green meaning money, not necessarily success. So for us as Dodger fans, it's always funny to, the Mark Pryor, memes and everything else. But, kind of what was mentioned in the article is that it goes beyond, Pryor, it goes beyond, Connor McGinnis, it goes beyond everything else. It's everybody working together, and Clayton Kershaw talked about it, and he said, the people around here know how to help, and there's a good connective line from each group. When you get here, they assess your strength, your mobility to see if there's something deficient there. If you're all good, then they look to see how you throw. If there's a deficiency there, there's always something to look at, whether it's a mechanical thing, a strength thing, a mobility thing, and they try to fix it. From Pryor, McGinnis, bullpen coach Josh Bard, to strength and conditioning coaches Travis Smith, and the rest of those guys. There's just a lot of people working toward the same goal. And I think that's one thing we've heard a lot with Dodgers and player development and everything else. When we've talked to younger players on this podcast and on our old podcast, and kind of that of what's the difference with the Dodgers. And, there's a lot of different things, but I think they've always said the communication, the collaborative, effort, and everybody has the same goal. They want you to be the best player you can be. There's no, agendas out here. There's nothing that they want you to be the best player you can be, and they're going to maximize and give you all the information that they have in order to help you be that. So, we're obviously lucky as Dodger fans to continue to see this, and I'm sure we'll continue to see more and more people continue to grow the player development system. We talked about it in the first segment of the Dodgers can keep building up these guys and use them how they see fit, whether it's to help the major league team directly, whether it's to help them indirectly via trade, or whether their time has come and now they get sent off and you get more prospects in to work on it. And you're always going to have the 1 year guys coming in and trying to better themselves, and it's just fun to see and fun to watch. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to come in every day or by listening or watching every day. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. So check us out, on your morning commute, when you're at the gym, getting ready for school, getting ready for work, whatever you're doing, check us out every weekday morning. Remember, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube that are hosted by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go check those out. You can become an insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM either of us with any questions, comments, or thoughts. You can also send those via email, lockdowndodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.